Hello everyone, it's Kari from sunshineinmypocket.com, back with you to share a really fun card, actually two cards, using this brand new set called Imagine a Dragon from Missing Stamps. There are some great sentiments, 3 different dragons, and a lot of coordinating images that you can use. I also have the dies that I'm going to be using today as well, and this new Succulent stencil set. So let's get started by stenciling this background. I'm going to tape down my panel here, and then I'm going to use my magnets to hold on this stencil. It makes it really easy to stencil a panel. I'm going to use various colors of Distress Oxide inks. I have dried marigold here, and then I have a couple shades of pink like saltwater taffy and picked raspberry. Now, you can't really tell the difference between these two pinks, so eventually I just stuck with the orange and one of the pinks. See, look here, you really can't tell a big difference. And I'm just going to stencil on colors here and there, just doing a few spot colors of ink, and that's going to create a really vibrant, fun background for us. I like doing this with stencils just to mix it up a little bit and add some interest. This is a beautiful stencil from Missing Stamps, and I love the thin lines. I think it would be all beautiful in any colors you wanted to choose, and I do a different color variation at the end. Now I'm going to take some of these stamps from the stamp set and put them on my panel here to stamp them out with my MISTI. So I'll pick those up with the MISTI door, ink on the ink, and stamp them down a couple of times to get a nice dark impression. I'm using an ink that's Copic friendly because I'm going to color up those images. While that's drying, I have a couple of stencils that I want to use some magical stars. I think it's really fun to add some extra things in the background. So I'm going to use some lunar paste here in gold and add those stars to the background. Now, for some of you, this is going to be a little too much, a little too busy. So I would recommend just doing, if you want to do this, do like a clear glitter paste or something like that. I love the gold myself, but I think a clear glitter paste would also be beautiful, or just leave the stencil as it is. But look at this beautiful result we get, and that gold just shines in the light. So I'm going to set that aside to dry while I color up these dragons. I had in my mind to color them up in orange and pink to match that background. So you're going to see a partial coloring of this orange one here. I used a lot of colors of orange. I'm starting out with YR18 and moving along to YR16, and then I'm going to keep bringing in lighter and lighter colors. But also at the end, you're going to see that I really wanted it to be a little more yellow toned. So I bring in more of a yellow Copic marker near the end. So I'm going through with the YR14 and the YR12 here, and that's when I look at it and I say, you know, I really need this to be a little brighter. So I'm testing out the YR02, and I start in with that one, but then I decide, no, it needs something even more yellow to brighten this up. So the next color I bring in is the Y17, and that's kind of an orangey yellow, and I think it brings out a little more of the brightness that I was looking for. So I'm going to go through and finish coloring up the rest of this dragon using some of those colors as well, and then I'll go back through the dark shades once again and blend those through just to give it a little more contrast and a little more depth. After I finish this tail and the bottom portion, I'm going to finish coloring up the top of the dragon the same exact way. And then I decided for his belly and his wings, I was going to make those pink. So I'm going to bring in some pink shades as well. Look how cute he's turning out. I love the looks on these dragons. They're so happy and very cheerful. I think these would brighten up anyone's day. These are going to be great for a birthday card or thinking of you or just to brighten up a day. Here's the pinks. I start in with the RV17 just as the darkest shade of pink. Then I'm going to blend that out with the RV14. That will create an even lighter pink, and then I bring in the lightest shade yet. This one is the RV13, and that wasn't bright enough for me even still, so I leave room for RV11 and finish out that coloring. So I'm going to use those same colors on the wings, but for his scales and the horns on his head, I'm going to use some warm grays to color those up. You can see I'm taking my time with this dragon, just kind of figuring out how I want him colored, and that's why I've sped this up just a little bit. So in real life, this took me a little longer to decide on my colors, as sometimes it does. So there's my orange dragon. I'm going to finish up coloring the other dragons off camera, and you'll see in just a minute. Here's the warm grays that I'm using for his scales and horns, and I just think he turns out so very cute. Very bright and vibrant. All right, so I've cut them out with the coordinating dies, and now I'm going to use this Scene Builder Cloud Stencil to stencil on a slimline card. And the reason I'm doing this is because I can stencil on enough clouds for 2 cards for both of the cards that I'm going to make today all at once. I'm using some Distress ink in Picked Raspberry and darkening that up just a shade. Then I'm going to turn the stencil over and use the smaller clouds to add a second layer of clouds. And I love this stencil for it being so long, offering a couple different shapes of and sizes of clouds. So off screen, I just followed those clouds and cut them out like this to use at the bottom of our panel. And this is pretty much dry now, so I'm going to lay out the images here and create the scene that I had in my mind to create. I love that there's a little rainbow that he's painting here, and then we've got some of the paint buckets. I'm going to add a few of those around, and then a sentiment for the top, which I'm going to choose right here. And I think that this one right here, "You Spark Joy in My Heart," is going to work the best. So I stamped that and I heat embossed it in clear over the black ink. And now I'm just going around the edges with a little bit of that same pink color to help that to stand out just a little bit. And now we can put this all together. I'm going to be using foam tape on most of it just to give some dimension. And this card really packs a punch. So I will add some foam tape and also a little bit of glue to give me some wiggle room to put those clouds on and line them up with the bottom of the panel. And then I'll add some foam dots to the top of this little dragon here. And then I'm going to glue the bottom portion right to the clouds. So that'll be at the same level as those clouds. And then we're going to add this little rainbow that he's painting. And you can see that in all of the colors I use today, it will create a full rainbow. So the dragons are red or kind of like a hot pink and orange. And then we've got the green, blue, purple here on the rainbow. So I'll just glue those together just like that. Then we're going to add this orange dragon to the top using some more foam dots right there. And then I'll put the sentiment on with some foam adhesive as well. Just like that. Look how fun and cute this is. Now we'll add the paint cans, just using some liquid adhesive for those right on the clouds. And I'm just going to kind of put them here and there, trying not to cover up my cloud stencil so you can still tell that he's standing on a cloud, probably cloud 9, I'm guessing. And then we'll add that to our card base just like this. And you can see that this is a really busy card, but very fun, very bright. It's got that shine in the background. But if this is too busy for you, don't worry, I have another option. I stenciled on a new background here using blues and yellows. I actually think I use a Twisted Citron, which is kind of a yellow green. And then I cut out one of the frames from the Stamp, Seal, and Shaker collection die set, and I'm going to attach the rest of the clouds to that frame just like this. So I'll glue those to the side, and then I'll also glue that down to the bottom. Here's the die set that I used right there. And then I can go ahead and build up this seam. I'm going to pop that frame up with some foam adhesive just to give some dimension to this card as well, and sticking with our theme for today, popping up that dragon as well with the foam adhesive, and then we'll add that to the front of the card panel. Now you could easily turn this into a shaker card if you wanted to, but today we had enough. There's enough with the background going on and the images and the stencil, so I'm going to leave it just like this and add the rest of our images that I had left over, one of the rainbows and one of those little paint cans. And I use the sentiment that says just a little spark of imagination. Then I'm adding some sequins just to give a nod to like a shaker or a faux shaker card. And this one is a little bit less dramatic, a little less busy. And I'll add that to the card base, and that's going to finish off both of our cards for today. So let me show you a closer look at both of them. I love all of the dragons in a variety of color. So here's our purple dragon. Then we've got our pink and orange dragons here. Different looks, different backgrounds, but all so much fun. So I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'll be back with way more card inspiration real soon. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.